This introductory slideshow has been prepared to familiarize you with the basic components of the undercarpet cabling systems. Undercarpet power cable. Top shield. Vinyl floor preparation. Hold down tape. Spray adhesive. Undercarpet Pro Crimper tap and splice hand tool. Tap connectors. Splice connectors. Insulating patch kit. Top shield bonding clips. Stainless steel bonding clips. 3-conductor single duplex DCR. 3-conductor dual duplex DCR. 3-conductor combination DCR. 5-conductor DCR. 5-conductor DCR adapter, black. Red. Blue. Isolated ground, black. Isolated ground, red. Power whip kit. Flush mount wall transition box. Surface mount wall transition box. Surface mount wall transition box cover. Surface mount floor transition cover kit. Flush mount floor transition outlet box. Power transition block. Category 5E communications transition block. Category 6 communications transition block. And communications cable notching tool. This video has been prepared to assist you in understanding the basic installation techniques and flexibility of the undercarpet power cabling system. Installation of the undercarpet cabling system begins with the transition from round wire to flat wire. First, select and install a transition box. A flush mount wall box is shown here. Instruction sheets are supplied with all components to assist the installer with the procedures required for correct installation. A clean and smooth floor surface must be provided before the undercarpet cabling system can be installed. All floor areas should be free of any debris that could penetrate the cable after installation. Yellow vinyl floor preparation is required for all slab-on-grade and below-grade installations of undercarpet power cable and is optional but recommended for all other installations. When installing the vinyl floor preparation, all joined sections must overlap a minimum of 1/2 inch and be taped to the floor along both edges of the overlap with a short section of hold-down tape. All installed floor preparation should be taped with hold-down tape along the edges of the complete installation at 10 to 12-foot intervals to prevent the floor preparation from shifting. Floor preparation should never be cross-taped or cut during the installation of floor fittings. Locate and position the floor fitting base plate selected in the location specified and install the mounting anchors. If vinyl floor preparation is required, drill and install the anchors through the vinyl. If the vinyl floor preparation is not required, install the base plate mounting anchors directly to the floor. Set the base plates aside to be installed after the cable has been rolled out into position. Be sure to remove all debris generated during the drilling and anchor installation process. Upon completion of the installation of the vinyl floor preparation, if required, and all floor fitting base plate mounting holes have been installed, position the end of the roll of undercarpet power cable at the transition box. Unroll a sufficient length of cable to terminate the cable to the transition terminal block in the transition box, and roll the cable to the end of the cable run or to the first location where the cable must change direction. Edge tape both sides of the installed cable at the wall to keep the cable from shifting. Edge tape the cable to the vinyl floor preparation as required to keep the cable in alignment. If a directional change is required, roll the additional cable off the reel and fold the cable by hand at a 90-degree angle and press the folded area flat, and then continue to unreel the cable off the roll to the end of the circuit run. Using a pair of sharp cutting shears to eliminate any burrs, cut the cable off the roll. For branch circuits to be installed off the main run, butt the end of the branch circuit cable next to the main run, leaving no more than 1/8 inch gap between the cables. Roll the cable out to the end of the branch circuit run. Again, cut the cable off the roll. Edge tape the cable to the vinyl floor preparation or to the floor if the floor preparation is not required, as necessary to prevent the cable from shifting. For branch circuit cable termination to a main run feeder cable, tap connectors and an insulator patch kit must be installed. Pull back the top protective blue vinyl covering only, approximately 18 inches, on the branch circuit cable. Using a pair of sharp cutting shears, cut the feeder cable's top blue vinyl only, aligning the cut with the center conductor on the branch circuit cable. Do not cut the feeder cable's bottom protective blue vinyl covering. Pull back both ends of the top blue vinyl on the feeder cable approximately 9 inches to expose the feeder cable conductors. Separate the perforated cable between the conductors on the feeder cable approximately 6 inches. Now separate the perforated cable between the conductors on the branch circuit cable approximately 6 inches. Being sure the branch circuit conductors are within 1/8 inch of the feeder cable, observe the phase color marking matching the two conductors and install a tap connector on each conductor to be terminated. All tap connectors must be installed straight, flat, and perpendicular to the main run feeder cable. Using the Undercarpet Pro Crimper Tap and Splice hand tool, terminate both ends of the tap connector on each conductor. An insulator patch must now be installed to insulate the termination. The insulator patch must be installed between the bottom cable conductors and bottom protective blue vinyl covering. Do not cut or remove the bottom blue vinyl. After the insulator patch has been installed, use the top blue vinyl that was previously pulled back out of the way and overlap it on top of the insulator patch. After the cable has been installed in position and all tap connectors, splice connectors, and insulating patches have been installed as required by the application, proceed to mount all floor fitting base plates to the floor. All base plates must be positioned during installation between the cable's bottom protective blue vinyl covering and the cable conductors. Do not cut or remove the bottom blue vinyl. Separation of the bottom blue vinyl from the cable is accomplished by pulling down on the vinyl away from the bottom of the cable. Position the exposed cable conductors and top blue vinyl between the guide locator posts on top of the floor fitting base plate. Position the end of the roll of top shield at the previously installed transition box, leaving a sufficient length of top shield at the transition box for termination. Roll the top shield to the end of the circuit run where a floor fitting base plate has been installed, or to the first location where the top shield must change direction. Using sharp cutting shears, cut the top shield off the roll. Any time the top shield direction must be changed, such as for turns or tees, a new piece of top shield must be installed overlapping the straight installed section of top shield. 2 top shield bonding clips must be installed each time the top shield is overlapped to change direction. When terminating the top shield to a floor fitting base plate, cut the top shield at the top shield cutting indicator marks on the base plate. Insert and slide the top shield between both stainless steel bonding clips mounted on the base plate for secure termination. Using the spray adhesive to securely fasten the hold-down tape to the floor, spray the floor along both edges of the vinyl floor preparation for the entire length, or if floor preparation is not required, along both edges of the top shield. Tape the edges of the top shield and the vinyl floor preparation, if it was used, to the floor along both sides of the completed cable installation for the entire length of the cable run. By hand, assure all hold-down tape is securely fastened to the floor. Install all DCR receptacles in the DCR base plates previously installed. In a location where the power cable feeds through a DCR base plate, cut the top protective blue vinyl covering only in the center of the base plate and fold each end of the blue vinyl back over the installed top shield. Using a small strip of hold-down tape, tape the blue vinyl down to the top shield. Remove the white tape protecting the DCR terminals and, matching the phase color marking on the DCR receptacle with the cable phase colors, install the DCR receptacle to the base plate by installing and tightening the 3 receptacle mounting screws. When all 3 screws have been tightened, termination will be made to the cable by the insulation piercing terminals on the bottom of the DCR receptacle. If a 5-conductor DCR is used, install a 5-conductor circuit adapter to the base plate first, and then install the DCR receptacle on top of the adapter. If a DCR receptacle or 5-conductor circuit adapter is to be installed at the end of a circuit cable, fold and tape the top protective blue vinyl covering to the top shield. Insert the end of the cable into the open slot on the bottom front end of the DCR receptacle or 5-conductor adapter, and then fold the cable with DCR or adapter into position on the base plate and install and tighten the receptacle mounting screws. An insulator patch is not required when a DCR receptacle or 5-conductor circuit adapter is installed at the end of a circuit cable and the cable is folded up inside the slot on the DCR or 5-conductor adapter. All DCR covers can be installed at this time, but will need to be removed when the carpet is installed. To install the cable and top shield into the transition box, fold back the top shield and install a temporary strip of hold-down tape on the top shield to locate the top shield out of the way. Press down on the cable, forming a 90-degree angle for the cable to extend up the wall into the transition box, and route the cable inside the transition box into position to attach the cable to the transition block. Using sharp cutting shears, measure and cut the cable 3 3/4 inches long, measuring from the bottom of the box to the top of the cable. The cable will now be the correct length to terminate the cable to the transition block. Disassemble the transition block from the transition block base plate. Using sharp cutting shears, trim 1 1/4 inches off the end of the front and back protective blue vinyl covering. Do not cut the cable. Insert the exposed end of the cable into the top slot of the back of the transition block and rotate the transition block 90 degrees. Install the transition block with the cable inserted to the transition block base plate and insert and tighten the 4 assembly screws. Align and attach the transition block to the back of the transition box, securing the transition block base plate to the box with 2 screws attached to the transition block base plate. Now install a grounding jumper wire from the center green terminal screw on the transition block to the ground screw in the transition box, per applicable code. Remove the temporary strip of tape holding the top shield back out of the way. Fold the top shield back over the cable and route the top shield at a 90-degree angle up the wall to the transition box. Press down on the top shield, being sure a 90-degree angle has been formed for the top shield to extend up the wall to the transition box. Install a strip of hold-down tape across the top shield, taping the top shield to the floor at the wall. Using sharp cutting shears, cut the top shield off even with the top of the box cover mounting ears located on the lower front of the box. Attach the top shield to the box cover mounting ears with 2 stainless steel bonding clips or 2 832 machine screws. Finally, install hold-down tape along both edges of the top shield, taping the top shield to the floor all the way to the wall. The termination block in the transition box is now ready to accept round wire termination. After round wire termination, the transition box cover can now be installed. To extend a power cable, a splice connector and insulator patch must be installed. If the cable being extended has been previously installed with a floor fitting, such as a DCR, at the end of the cable, the floor fitting must first be removed. Remove the 3 screws holding the DCR receptacle to the base plate, or if a 5-conductor circuit adapter is used, remove the 3 screws holding the DCR receptacle to the adapter and remove the 5 screws holding the adapter to the base plate. Using sharp cutting shears, trim the fold off the end of the cable. After the floor fitting base plate has been removed and the new vinyl floor preparation, if required, and all the new floor fitting base plates have been installed, install the new extended length of cable to within 1/8 inch of the installed cable. Pull back the top protective blue vinyl on the existing and extended cables approximately 9 inches. Separate the conductors along the perforations on both cables for a length of 2 inches. Temporarily cross-tape both cables at the back of the perforation to hold the cables in position to accept the splice connectors. Observe the phase color marking on the 2 matching conductors to be sure the cable has been installed correctly, and install a splice connector on the 2 conductor ends. Using the Undercarpet Pro Crimper tap and splice hand tool, terminate the splice connector on both ends. Install and terminate only 1 pair of conductors at a time. After all conductors have been terminated, remove both strips of tape used to cross-tape the cable. Install an insulator patch over the spliced conductors. Be sure the insulator patch is positioned between the bottom of the cable and the bottom blue vinyl shield. Install the top and bottom blue vinyl shield back over the cable, overlapping the vinyl on top of the insulator patch. Overlap and install the extended new section of top shield and 2 bonding clips per side over the extended cable installation. The top shield overlap should extend beyond the insulator patch so that the bonding clips are not installed on top of the insulator patch. Apply spray adhesive and tape the new top shield to the floor. If the end of the cable installation is not terminated to a floor fitting, an insulator patch can be cut in half and must be installed over the new terminated cable end, insulating the exposed conductors from the metal top shield. Install the insulator patch between the upper and lower protective blue vinyl. Overlap the top blue vinyl on top of the insulator patch. Install a new section of top shield over the insulator patch at the end of the cable installation, terminating one end of the top shield to the base plate stainless steel bonding clips. Spray and edge tape the edges and the end of the installed top shield to the floor. Install DCR receptacles in new floor fitting locations. If removing or relocating a floor fitting, but the power cable feeder is to remain installed, remove the fitting from the base plate. Use caution not to lose the screws from the floor fitting, as they can be reused. Remove the strip of tape securing the top protective blue vinyl covering to the top shield on both sides of the floor fitting. Do not cut or remove the blue vinyl. Remove approximately 9 inches of the hold-down tape securing the top shield to the floor on both sides of the floor fitting. Fold the top shield back approximately 9 inches on both sides of the floor fitting, exposing the top protective blue vinyl covering on the cable. Temporarily, tape the top shield back out of the way. Pull back the top protective blue vinyl covering on both sides of the floor fitting approximately 9 inches. Remove the floor fitting base plate and set it aside. Floor fittings can be reused. After removal of the floor fitting, the remaining hole in the center ground conductor should be repaired. Separate the perforations on both sides of the cable's center conductor and install a splice connector over the hole in the center conductor. Terminate the splice connector using the Undercarpet Pro Crimper Tap and Splice hand tool. When installing the splice connector, center the hole in the cable between the splice connector legs. Install an insulator patch over the cable where the power cable fitting was removed. Fold the top protective blue vinyl covering back over the cable, overlapping the insulator patch. Using sharp cutting shears, cut a section of top shield long enough to extend outside the insulator patch and install the top shield patch over the existing top shield. Install 2 top shield bonding clips per side, attaching the top shield patch to the existing top shield outside the insulator patch. Apply spray adhesive to the floor on both sides of the patch and edge tape both sides of the top shield to the floor, completing the cable patch. This concludes a visual presentation of the undercarpet cabling system.